Hello, hello! Welcome to the Moana Adams podcast. I'm your host, Moana, a 15-year-old with a ton to say about mental health, wellness, self-love, and a whole lot more. So let's get into it. Hello, hello! Welcome to Self-Love February. I am really excited for this month because of all the content that I'm doing this month. I'm just so excited about it. Some of these ideas, I think I said this before, but some of the ideas I'm doing for reels and things have been ideas that I've had for months now. And so I'm really excited to finally put those into action and bring them to you. But this is the first podcast episode of Self-Love February. And today we're just talking about generally self-love. And on the podcast Instagram, there's reels for Self-Love February, and then we'll have 3 more episodes this month about it, and I'm very excited. They're not all, full-blown self-love, but they surround the topic, and yeah, I'm very excited about it. We have segments to do, so let's just do grateful. Today, I am grateful for the internet, because without it, I literally could not do any of the things that I do. School, work, podcast, editing, all of it is with the internet, and I'm very grateful that I have access to that and that it gives us so many opportunities to do so many things. And even though those things aren't always good things, I think that the good opportunities definitely outweigh the bad. And for my currently loving is Culver's. They have things there called a malt, and it's kind of like a milkshake but thicker, I think is how I would describe it. It's really good. I don't like it as much as normal ice cream, but it's still good. But why I love it so much is because I got one yesterday for the first time in 2 years. And you get to pick if you want vanilla or chocolate, and then you put 2 things in it, like M&M's, Oreos, frozen fruit, marshmallow fluff, anything you can think of. And they put it in and then they blend it up. So yesterday I got frozen raspberries, and Dove chocolate, and it was so good because I love raspberries and I love chocolate and I love them even more together. So that's my currently loving. And I also wanted to say that if my words are a little bit slurred or sound off, I just started up doing Invisalign again, and I got some attachments, and I'm still trying to get used to talking with them. But let's get into self-love and everything about it. I first wanted to start off talking about what self-love really is, because I feel like a lot of people have this misconception about it, and people don't understand what it actually means. I feel like most people, when they think of self-love, and just the general population, think of spending money on yourself, eating certain foods because you feel like it and you want to, getting a massage, saying I love you in the mirror, retail therapy, and it's something that you're born with and that you should know how to do. But the reality is, and not that any of those things are super negative or bad, but they're not the reality of self-love. And so what it really is being patient with yourself, showing up for yourself, setting healthy boundaries, cutting out toxic people, knowing when it's time to say no, appreciating yourself for who you are while still being aware of your toxic traits and investing in your own growth. And it's something that takes a lot of practice. And I mean a lot of practice. It's definitely not something that we're born with, and something that takes a lot of hard work to get to a point where you're happy with your level of self-love. So there is a process to it. There are 4 main, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this, but there are 4 main steps, I guess you could call them, to self-love. And the first is self-awareness. So we're talking about understanding your thoughts and emotions and how you feel during the day, and being aware of your negative self-talk, your own toxic behaviors, and the toxic people around you, and how all those things are making you feel in your day-to-day life and about yourself. and just understanding that it might be good to journal, write it out, and just do what you can with that. And then we have the second step, self-esteem. So keeping promises to yourself and appreciating yourself, whether you fail or succeed at something. Just building up your self-esteem, I think, is very difficult for a lot of people. And that is definitely where affirmations come in and things like that. I feel like that's probably the second most out of all four that people talk about the most, people are most aware about. And then the third is your self-worth. So understanding your own value and the value that you bring to other people. And then also, that's about putting your happiness and your mental health above, not necessarily above other people, but at the same time, yes. I don't mean necessarily putting yourself first in all and every situation, but prioritizing your mental health and just focusing on making yourself a priority over people who are negative and who don't deserve your time and your energy. I think that's the most important thing, understanding what and who deserves your time and your energy. The last step, number 4, is probably the most well-known, and it's self-care. And I feel like we see this constantly, but the reality of it is it's taking responsibility for both your own physical and mental health. And setting aside time, scheduling time for self-care, and putting in real effort and really showing up for yourself to build self-love and grow self-love, and focusing on doing those things. And when you're practicing self-care, actually paying attention to what you're doing and having your full focus be on that and be on yourself. So when can we incorporate self-love, and how do we do it? What do we do? My 2 favorite times to incorporate it during the day is morning and night routines. I have really been struggling to keep consistent morning and night routines recently, and I'm working on it, but there's tons of ways you can put it into your morning and night routines. So basically any act of self-care is helpful, or journal prompts when you're journaling, and what you are eating and the way you're thinking about food during the day. And doing it every single day is super important, and staying consistent with those things is so important. Consistency is the most important thing, and it is hard to do. So hard, especially for me. I feel like I'm very progress motivated, and when I stop seeing progress, I become unmotivated, and I then rely on the motivation instead of consistency. And it takes a lot of practice, like a lot of practice, to do these things. But some of the things we can practice doing are also, it's kind of hard to physically touch and hold them and see them. I have trouble getting to goals when there's no numbers involved, because if I'm trying to get to a high number and I'm seeing the numbers go up, right, that's the progress that I need to keep going. It's hard to focus on and pay attention to. This first thing is something that you can see, and it is the 28 Days of Self-Love Challenge. I talked about it on Instagram, but you should start it right now. Go open a notes on your phone, and right at the top, Self-Love February, and then start a list, and each day, once a day, you put in just one thing you love about yourself, and no repeats. Each day has to be completely a unique answer. And it's very simple, but towards the end, it can get difficult, but it's totally worth it. I force all my friends to do it. I don't force them, but I do, and I get them to do it, and no matter how much they like it or don't like it, I know that it's good for them, and that deep down they do enjoy it, and it's a ton of fun. I've been doing it for maybe 3 years now, and if you want more information on it, if you go to the podcast Instagram, there's a reel about it. And I'm doing 28 days of self-love reels on the podcast right now. So there's tons of stuff there. And on YouTube, too. And then here's the more, or the less, physical things that are kind of hard to count. But forgiving yourself, setting boundaries, retraining negative self-talk and cutting it out, addressing your own toxic behavior. I think this is one that nobody talks about, but paying attention to the way you make other people feel, and then also like the toxic behaviors you do to yourself, and addressing those things and trying to grow out of them, and then making healthier choices, being your authentic self and not being worried about what other people think about yourself. And then, like I said, self-care. And that's the whole thing. That's what I got. Today was, I feel like, was it short? Today was kind of short. I talk really fast, which definitely makes things go by faster. But that's all I have for you. Don't forget to look at 28 Days of Self-Love Reels on the podcast Instagram, because I'm so excited. We're doing so many different things. Love language, tons of things that I'm super excited about, and I can't wait for you to see it all. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to give this podcast a rate and review, as well as follow me on all my socials linked in the show notes. Don't forget to drink some water, and I'll talk to you later.